last week I started the story with it was a dark and stormy night. Right?
Daddy,
Yeah.
where's it stuck?
Yeah, stormy night. This time, it like a lot of good stories start with, so there I was, and so that's where this story starts with, and so there I was, far, far, far from home, wearing a United States Army green camouflage uniform, because I was there at Army basic training. Now I had spent a good deal of time. It had been, oh golly, about 5 weeks of basic training, and for people who've been through basic training, 5 weeks feels like an eternity. Your entire life turns upside down in that period of time, and you go from being like, yeah, 5 weeks is nothing to, oh my good grief, golly, 5 weeks is forever. One day is forever some points in time. But it had been long enough that we were able to actually start going regularly to church services. We'd gone to church services before, and we'd gone and played a game called Don't Get Caught Sleeping in Church by the drill sergeants, because they'll take you out of church and tell you you're abusing your First Amendment rights. So, in any case, we finally started figuring out, we found out they had a Bible study too. And we said, let's go to the Bible study. And so we went to the Bible study, and it was not for us. It wasn't good. And it was like, it was run by volunteers, and you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all over that base, all going through basic training at the same time, all of them needing Bible studies, and so they were stretched super thin as far as volunteers were concerned. But we got people who were kind of inexperienced, didn't really know what they were doing, and we were just kind of like, we're going to get busted sleeping in here, we're going to get in trouble. And so we were talking amongst ourselves, though, and I realized that in the short time that I had been able to call myself a soldier, I had discovered the ability to stop complaining about things and start doing something about them. And so what we did is we went to our drill sergeant, and we said, hey, we're not really feeling that Bible study, but can we have our own? And the drill sergeants would have been great poker players, because they sit there and just like deadpan, like, okay, all right, fine. What I didn't know until later was that went on to my sheet with that drill sergeant as a positive comment that I had helped to start a Bible study among my fellow soldiers. In youth ministry, there's a thing that a friend of mine, Phil, who works in Kansas, he and I discovered this special creature called the Good Idea Fairy. And the Good Idea Fairy is one of those people who will discover, hey, you know what you should do? You should do X, Y, Z, and they'll give you all these good ideas. And, sometimes they're good ideas. Sometimes they can be improved on a lot. But you can always tell the Good Idea Fairy when you start doing the idea and you ask said fairy to come along for the ride, and they go, oh, no, I'm the Idea Fairy. And they let you know, hey, they're not really into the doing part. There's another person who is, it's even harder to deal with than the Good Idea Fairy, and that's the person who just solidly complains all the time. Now, here we are. We are in a suboptimal situation right now. We found ourselves in where, like I talked about last week, where we've discovered some things are broken. Some things don't work. And as we're discovering some of those things that don't work, we're going to discover some other things that don't work as well. To my absolute horror, the other day, I was sitting and reading, and I heard this dripping sound over my head, and I was in the downstairs area of my house, and I realized that one of my kids had been in the shower a little extra long. And lo and behold, after they had been in the shower too long, it turns out, well, I got to put it back together, man. That's what I'm talking about with these people here. Oh, you want it broken? Okay, all right, well, that's a lesson for another day, I guess. Here you go. I discovered that the water had been running, but it had been running out of the shower, and the entire floor was just coated in water. 2 days later, we looked up and discovered a water stain in our ceiling. There was a leak going from the floor of our bathroom upstairs into our ceiling downstairs. Now, at some point in time in the future, we will be going to fix that. And I guarantee you, when we go to fix the things that are wrong with that ceiling, we're going to find things in the sub-ceiling that are wrong too. Or not the sub-ceiling, but things that are wrong over our heads that isn't just the drywall up there. And when you discover things that are wrong, you can't just sit there and complain about them. If you notice that there's something wrong, then you are the first person who needs to step up and volunteer. A long time ago, a galaxy far, far away called Israel, the city of Jerusalem was laid to waste. The temple was destroyed, the wall was destroyed, and there was a man who was working for the king at the time, for the king of Syria, and he was his cupbearer, which is to say he would go to meals with him and drink out of his cup first, and they would watch him to see if he died. They'd be like, hey, this looks like good wine. And when Nehemiah didn't die, they said, okay, good, let's, woo, and they'd drink the rest of it. And so Nehemiah's job was not as an advisor. It wasn't like he was like Daniel's second in charge of all of Egypt or something like that. He wasn't, not Daniel, Joseph, second in charge of all of Egypt, or Daniel, who would become a great and trusted advisor to Nebuchadnezzar. He was the guy who got poisoned. That was his job. He wasn't anybody special except that he was part of the king's court and the king saw him. But when he heard about what happened, it just broke his heart, and he prayed this prayer. And we find this in Nehemiah chapter 1. In verse 4 we start. As soon as I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said, O Lord God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your servant that I now pray before you day and night for the people of Israel, your servants, confessing the sins of the people of Israel which we have sinned against you. Even I and my father's house have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, and the rules that you commanded your servant Moses. Remember the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me, keep my commandments and do them, though your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there I will gather them and bring them to the place that I have chosen to make my name dwell there. They are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand. O Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name, and give success to your servant today, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. See, it wasn't enough for Nehemiah to say, that's wrong, and to be critical. And it wasn't even enough for Nehemiah to say, dear God, please send somebody to fix the home of my ancestors. No, Nehemiah said, this is so wrong and it needs a solution. Please help me be successful, because I am probably the solution that you're looking for. Here's the thing. When we find something that is broken, when we notice that it's broken, one of the most important things for us to do is to not assign blame. It's to not say, whose fault is this? It's not to say, hey, why is this the way that it is? The much more important thing for us to assign to that situation is, do I need to be part of the solution? Do I need to help fix this and make it better? Because if we recognize that we, as we observe the broken world, may be the only ones who are actually noticing the brokenness in it. Imagine if you noticed brokenness in a person, and instead of running to somebody else to say, ha ha ha, did you see him? He walked into a wall. Maybe the first thing you need to do is give that person a hat with a bill on it, so that they have like half of a second of a warning before they actually walk into the wall. Maybe instead of saying, hey, you know what, I don't like this music that they're doing, what you need to do is go be a part of the solution and say, hey, I'm not exactly happy with the way this is going. How can I help? If you see a situation that is in your home right now, and I'm pretty sure all of us are going through stressed out homes right now. If your relationship with your parents is not exemplary, that's okay, because there's no relationship that is perfect. But right now, it's just going to feel less perfect. It's going to feel much more potently less perfect. And when you notice it, that's when you know it's time to do something about it. We're going to, over the next couple of weeks here, we're going to study what Nehemiah did to fix the thing that he saw that was wrong. But the first thing he did, before he did one thing, after he found out what was wrong, he wept about it. He was honest about how he felt about the situation, and then he took his heartbreak to God. He didn't say, this is wrong, I hate this, or I don't understand this, or why is this happening, and just sit there in pity. He brought his sad state to the foot of God and said, God, please, this breaks my heart, but you have said that there is a solution. You have said that you will bring us back. And so now I'm going to start working on that solution that you have set up for us. You see, what Nehemiah said was, I believe you, and I believe you enough to start moving forward. Is your relationship with your parents something that you're willing to work on? Is your relationship with your siblings something you are willing to work on? Is your relationship with your ability to learn right now something you're willing to work on? Because most of our HEB people aren't being graded on their take-home schoolwork. Some of them are, but not all of them are. And you find out how you feel about learning the moment in time that you're not being compelled to do it by a grade. And when you take a look at those things honestly, when you take a look at those things with your heart fully borne out for everybody that you're around, that everybody you belong to, maybe you'll see something that needs some work. And I hope that your parents are noticing that they can improve their relationship with you, but you are at the place in your life right now where you can reach out to them first, or you can initiate that, and you can inspire them to say, hey, I kind of want to do that. And you don't have to say, hey, I would like to work on a relationship. You can say, hey, can we sit and watch a show? Hey, can we, I just built a erector set car with Peter. It was frustrating as anything, but man, it was beautiful bonding time. It was awesome. I don't know if that thing will work, but it's built, and so is our relationship. If you will just be bold enough to take those steps, start with prayer. Again, every single morning I'm uploading videos that you can use for your quiet time if you don't have that discipline yet. Every single morning there's a little bit of prayer time that is you can use these videos to boost yourself with. Someone cynically pointed out that I'm putting them on YouTube, and I'm like, I'm not trying to, I'm not in the position right now where the videos that I'm making with those Devo videos are going to go much past our people. But the purpose is to get them into as many of your hands as possible so that you can take part in it. If not a single person watches them, it's no skin off my nose. I've done what I'm supposed to be doing, and if I get it to your hands, I have done the work that I'm supposed to do. But I'm begging you, please do the work that you can do. Because this time that we have right now, oh my goodness, we can't get that time back. Once we go back to our crazy, mad, busy lives where you guys have 3 different extracurriculars and I get to see you once a month, we can't get this time back. And I know it's weird, and I know it's odd, and you guys are really off your schedules. But make the most you can out of this time, because it's special, it's unique, and it's something you can use to repair some stuff that may need some